point of this discussion was what I think is going to go on in automation and fingers and toes in 2017. So I've got a few prognostications. And I'll have to ask you to excuse me. The person who was helping me build the slide named this law, but I think I might stick with it, which is stuff's going to just keep getting better and better. Barkin's law. So whether it be OCR or IVR algorithms or hardware processing speeds or digitize ops and the data that comes from digitizing front, middle, and back office operations, it's just going to keep getting better. So we've got no choice but to figure it out and keep up with it and try to keep pace. But we need to use our gut and know that OCR today didn't magically become 100% accurate when it was 80% accurate yesterday for your incoming invoices. So we need to sort of level set on expectations there. So that's the first one. Second one is, hopefully, examples, real, useful examples. And so back to our friend, the wheel. When Thog created the wheel, I could see him from my cave, and I knew what he was doing. So then I went and asked, and I made my own wheel. Right now, a lot of this digitization is happening in front, middle, back, but isn't being spoken about, possibly because the stigma of it replacing people with robots is keeping people from talking about it, and maybe they perceive this to be a competitive differentiator, so they're not talking about it. But what we need in the space is people to share, because this is transformation like every previous generation of transformation. You're just doing what you need to do for the business, better, faster, cheaper. And I also think we're going to start to see some technical mashups, because there is no one product that solves all problems. If you map work from beginning to end, there's an input. Sometimes it's semi-structured or not at all structured. Then there's the actual transactional processing, which is generally more rule-based. And so you can start to glue things together. So there are examples like Celoton and UiPath, or we've got an Amazon Echo that we can use to activate a Blue Prism robot for what that's worth. And we can sort of trigger it to send reports to people. We haven't set it up to have gerbils trigger it to send reports to people. We'll do that next. And so hopefully clients will be more willing to speak about this, because we're working with some pretty cool clients, but generally they don't want to talk about this. So that's two. Standardization of terminology, so that babble, and frankly, the ability for marketing to come up with anything that they want to call it, I think is confusing legitimate discussions, strategic solution design discussions. So what do you mean when you say cognitive? Wait, smart process automation, what? Intelligent automation, intelligent process automation, machine learning. So we need to kind of come to terms with a few words we can all understand so we know what we're building together. And it just so happens that is going on right now. Symphony and IRPA are founding members of an IEEE initiative working on standardizing terminology around this space. So there's a working group going on currently. We've been at it for, I don't know, a year now. And standards boards, they're super fast. So, so we're working on that, but I think that will help everybody sort of know what we're all talking about so we can get on with sort of building this barn together and not staring at tools and trying to figure out what you call them. Business model still needs to be sorted, and there's lots of different ways, and they somewhat confuse the discussion too. There are some, and I create this sort of hybrid. There's the software business models, there's the service business models, and there's overlaps. So some software you buy per license. Some you need to buy platform and then licenses. Some want to sell it to you with outcome-based or transactional. Some people are playing this freemium game where they think they'll disrupt the market by giving away the first batch free. And then there's services who are involved, and we're kind of doing some of the traditional and some new as far as just pay us for consulting and implementing, or an as-a-service model, or you get it all wrapped up in a bow, something that we're calling RBPO. That's exceptions and judgment plus the automation, similar to what you got out of a BPO arrangement, but sort of evolved for the hybrid toolkit. So that's not going to sort itself out, and in fact, having a rich set of options is what makes this space so interesting, but I think some of these will prove to be less attractive to enterprise clients, and so we'll see fewer of these over the course of 2017. An interesting one for me is M&A. So there's quite a bit of M&A going on right now, and to go back to 2016, but you saw Pega buy OpenSpan, you saw Cognizant buy Red or R-E-D, never know how to pronounce that. ISG and Allsbridge. So that was a big move and big news just recently in December. Genpact bought Rage. which is a very angry name. But they did that. And personally, something that was very interesting was just last week, our friend and peer, James Hall, founder of Gen 4, announced that Accenture just bought them. So one of the peer players who'd been around actually 2 years longer than Symphony had, although we were friends with them in our previous lives while James was getting started, have been absorbed into Accenture because the big firms see how hot the space is and how they need talent. And there will undoubtedly be more interesting things to come. So that's M&A. And finally, and I sort of touched on this, RPA is not about the robot. I think that to some degree we sort of need to calm down and focus on the fundamentals and get back to sort of what are you trying to solve? Right? What are we trying to achieve? You're trying to achieve better customer experience, trying to achieve a leaner operation, lower error rates, a higher compliance with audits, better visibility into the processes and the data. So I think if you get back to that and start sort of asking yourself those questions, then the tools kind of come along as opposed to it being the other way around. There's a lot of enterprise discussions we start out with today where they've begun their journey by going and getting a lot of software demos. And strangely, when you get software demos, the software vendors tell you how great they are, which is weird. So then they try to compute that, and what they need to be doing is going back and saying, what is the problem we're trying to solve? And then apply the appropriate path forward to that question.